I talked to an SEC coach that said Damon Wilson is going to be one of the best pass rushers in the SEC, and that includes guys like Colin Simmons. This is a loaded Dylan Stewart, Keldrick Falk. The SEC is loaded with pass rushers.
It's Mizzou, that's who, here on KC Sports Network. Tucker Franklin hanging out with Maggie Johnson here on a beautiful Tuesday for your edition of Mizzou, that's who. Glad to be back and glad that we got a really great conversation with ESPN draft analyst Matt Miller talking about the talent on this Mizzou roster. But Maggie, how are you? How are things going?
It's good. It's still so hot outside. I'm just ready for it to be football season. And somebody brought this up. What did they say? Like they called it like fake fall. I don't want fake fall. Fake fall September. That's right. Like the still 90 degrees and you're still like baking and stuff like that. I'm ready for the October type of fall. But the September fall will be interesting with all the home games that we've got. So we should have some good shows coming in here in September.
We should. There's a lot of good games coming up, obviously. You were talking about the fake fall, so I had to go pull up my phone. I think it's going to be 75 next week in Kansas City, but it goes back up to 80. So that's like, you know how you always have like the fake spring, first spring? This is like the first wave of fall. Just like, hey, weather's going to be kind of nice, and then they're going to yank it right back and be like, yep, psych, it's 90 degrees.
Yeah, in spring, you'll get like that random snowstorm, and you're like, no, okay. I got fooled again.
But it looks like I'm just looking for where I'm at in Kansas City, right? When I look at the weather, but it looks like the weather might be pretty nice for the Chiefs. That's where my head's at. For Mizzou's first home game of the season next Thursday, it looks like it'll be about 80 degrees, a little bit warmer than what the 70. But I mean, you'll take that, especially with the weather's the way it's been recently.
And it's a night game. It's an evening game. So yeah, I'm not upset about 80 degrees. Last year, I went to the first game. And I kind of wanted to die. I remember, I think it was like, really hot. Feels like over 100. The humidity was insane. You know, you have those like pom-pom shakers that they give out to everybody. They're just like sticking to your arms. It's just so bad. So I will take 80 degrees any day.
Yeah, I'm super looking forward to that. I also do love that they play it on a Thursday. I know we talked about that on a couple other podcasts, but like the fact they play it on a Thursday, it's not quite week 0, right, of playing your first game of the season on this, which crazy that week 0 is this weekend. Like, that's insane.
I know, big Fresno State fan this week.
huge Fresno State
huge
fan.
Fresno State fan.
We'll be cheering for the Bulldogs to get after it. It's in Kansas, right? I assume they wouldn't be playing Fresno State at Fresno.
I do believe it's in Kansas, yeah.
Okay. Well, they get to open up the booth. How funny, Maggie, how funny would that be? If they're opening up their brand new stadium with Fresno State and they just get like
I can't decide if I want that or I don't want that.
See, yeah, that's a good point.
It's one of those obviously it would be hilarious and we would all laugh and whatever. Right. But do we want them to come out with feel fooled and then us kind of, underestimate them a little bit? Or do we just want them to come in, have the win under their belt, and I don't know, just play the best border war type game that we can play? I don't know. Obviously, them losing
be very funny.
Would be sweet. It would be funny. It's just I'm just thinking I'm a little devil's advocate here.
No, it's fair. I think that's a really good point. If they lose that first game of the season, they're going to make they have to beat Missouri if they want to salvage their season in any sort of way. And obviously we'll get into breaking down Kansas in a couple of weeks, but this is not the same Kansas team that they've had. This team has lost a lot of talent. I know they still have Jalen yeah.
Jaden won a Heisman. Jalen is on his 7th year of college football.
Right. Jalen has been in school for as long as who's that? Perry Ellis? No.
Oh yeah.
That's Perry Ellis?
Player. Yeah, the basketball player.
Isn't that a brand?
It is also a basketball. It is also a brand. And a basketball player.
Well, how about that? He was in school for a really long time too. So they were probably in school at the same time together, I think. They overlap a little bit. But no, I mean, there was some actual news here for the Missouri Tigers before we dive into our interview with Matt that we could talk about. as well. They named their captains. Caden Green, let's start with this one. Caden Green was named to the AP preseason All-America team, second team. I know there's a lot of qualifiers you got to throw in there. We'll talk about that with Matt here in a little bit. But first thoughts on that. He is named as an offensive guard, right, before they flipped him over to tackle. But offensive guard, preseason All-American, second team. Only Mizzou guy on that list. But thoughts for that honor for Caden?
I like it. It's an interesting call because I think name plays a lot in those types of picks.
100%.
Didn't have like the best year he probably could have had last year, but not a bad season. But I think they're really looking for him to making that jump. And I think if he does make that jump, our offensive line is, just so much better than, maybe we anticipated it to be with losing Armand. So I like it. And it's also good for the Mizzou brand, right? It's good to have a Mizzou player on a list like that.
Yeah, it's great. I'm glad that there was a Mizzou player on there because there's a lot of talent on this team. We'll talk about it with Matt here in a little bit, but there's a lot of talent on this team, and it wouldn't have been truthfully wouldn't have been a shock if they wouldn't have had anybody because basically recently how they've been treated by the Associated Press, I think that it would have been probably almost par for the course if they would with the team with like this much talent didn't get anyone on there.
Yeah, that it would not have surprised me at all. Obviously, we talk about it with Matt a little bit, but those rankings coming out, Mizzou not being on there, it just nothing surprises me anymore when we're not on those lists. But that is why Drink keeps adopting that something to prove, and I would rather us go into it with the something to prove as opposed to last year where we went in ranked rather highly and had the letdown. It was more fun in 2023 when there was no pressure and no expectations. So I'm okay if Mizzou wants to keep playing that way as opposed to, I'd like being an underdog as opposed to being a overdog. Right. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's a good way to put it because like that is the thing. I kind of get the same vibes of just like there's really nothing for this team to lose. There's no expectations, I guess. Right? We could say for it, but look, I mean, he's there with Georgia Tech, Keelan Rutledge. He's also very good guard. He played 811 snaps. Green did at left guard last year. So playing there, obviously, as we mentioned, he's been flipped out to left guard as they're doing a little bit of like position battles right now in camp when it comes down to the offensive line, trying to figure out who that best 5 offensive lineman is. Dominic Judice, however you want to say it. He is out there.
Both are correct.
I think they are. I think both are right. We'll see how he says it. I don't know. I haven't heard him say his name before.
He did. No, he did an interview and he said the correct way is Judice. I think he said Judice, but he said, but if you want to use the Italian way, it's Giudice. So you're good either way.
Well, I'm not Italian, so I don't want to do any cultural appropriation here. So I'll just say, Judice is how I'll say it. Curtis Piegler, also a guy out there, and Tristan Wilson are competing for, Judice is pretty much going to be the left guard, I think is what people assume, but the other guard position, the right guard position is kind of up for grabs between Piegler and Wilson. So we'll see how that all shakes out. The Mizzou did name captains as well. So you might be thinking, oh, hey, maybe Mizzou has a little bit of clarity in terms of who they're starting. Nope, they don't. Sorry.
It would be too easy. That would be way too easy.
Mizzou names both quarterbacks. Sam Horn and Bo Pribula are captains for the 2025 season, along with 7 other players, Maggie. They have 9 captains for the 2025 season. Dalen Carnell, Zion Young, Connor Tollison, Logan Muckey is a special teams representative there. The aforementioned Caden Green with Jalen Catalon and Khalil Jacobs as well with Horn and Pribula. Thoughts on the captains list? 9 is a lot of captains. I've tried to go back and see, like, I'll look a little bit harder. But how many captains they've had in like years previously, but like 9 seems like it's a lot.
I feel like it's typically 4 to 5. I mean, no more than 6, I'm sure. I like the selection and I understand the thought process on it. Not really the quarterback situation. I know that they want to have their quarterback be, so I think that's just Drink continuing on and playing his mind games a little bit, which whatever, you don't want to tell anybody who you're picking, that's fine. I'm cool with it. Do what you're doing. But like, I like Dalen Carnell. I think he's served his time. I think he's earned his spot. I really like that one. Same with Connor Tollison. Yep. These are guys that have, they've been Missouri Tigers for a while. Yeah, I like them for sure. Jalen Catalon's a little bit of a question for me. I know he's been in college football for a long time, but I'm hoping that just means that he's, made his mark with the team. So I'm not mad about it. Khalil Jacobs, same thing. Obviously was out all last year with the injury and then comes in and has taken over as a captain. And maybe it just shows the type of teammate that he was when he couldn't be on the field. So yeah, I like the choices. I just don't know if, it's just a little bit over the top with 9.
Going back in my quick little Google research here, they had 5 captains last year, 6 captains in 2023. It had 8 captains in 2022, and 2021. It's looking like they had 4.
So I guess there's just no rules.
5.
The rules are there are no rules. Maybe.
Yeah, pretty much. Looks like they had 5 eventually because Tyler Beatty was added as a captain in 2025 at the end of the season. But so they started with 4, then ended with 5.
Yeah. I'm guessing that it's just one of those things where it'll just mix up every few games of who kind of goes out there. I don't see them putting more than 4 out there at the coin toss or anything like that. I could be wrong. I could be very wrong, but it would make sense just to kind of switch it up so that all of these players with very limited eligibility left to get their moment.
It's going to be very funny for both the quarterbacks to have a C on their chest, though. I will say this, Maggie. This is the funniest thing Eli Drinkwitz could have done. Like, legitimately, I saw that, and I saw it was both quarterbacks, and I said, oh, like, I'm sure I don't want to take anything away from these 2 young gentlemen, right? I'm sure that they are great, and they embody everything that a captain needs to embody, right? I'm not doubting that at all. It is genuinely hilarious that they're like, yeah, both quarterbacks captains. I think that is so fun.
It's 100% so he doesn't have to tell anybody who is going to be the starting quarterback, not even just next week, but on September 6th in the Border War. It's 100% gameplay. It's mind.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever you want to call it. It's drink me and drink.
If here's the thing. Also, we talked about this a little bit with cousin Shane. I don't know if it made it on the podcast or it was before the program, but these coaches are so paranoid. These are some paranoid sons of guns. And if whatever they can do to give themselves an edge, Drink isn't going to name a starting quarterback going into the Kansas game. Are you crazy? If he can do this and with a first year defensive coordinator over there for Kansas, and he can not name a starting quarterback until they play South Carolina, he's going to do that. Like, that makes too much sense strategic game plan strategy wise. Well, he might already know who the starting quarterback is. He's not going to publicly say it. Like, I don't know. Like, it makes these coaches are going to do whatever they can to gain an edge because they're so paranoid about everything. And it makes sense, I guess, but they're going to do the gamesmanship all the way through. And this is just another thing Eli Drinkwitz is doing with the gamesmanship of naming both quarterbacks captains. They're probably both great leaders and great captains. I'm not doubting that at all. I think the gamesmanship is what makes it so funny.
Well, I mean, you saw the same situation kind of work last year against Mizzou with Texas A&M, and Drink was like, "Oh,
exactly.
No, it's gonna be whatever their quarterback's name is this year." They're like, "It's gonna be him. It's gonna be him. It's gonna be him." Yeah, Marcel Reed. And then it was Connor Wagaman, and it's like,
who looked like prime money.
It worked, so maybe Drink's like, maybe it'll work for us too.
Yeah, I hope so. Hopefully it works out. Oh man, but there's a lot of good talent on this roster. Congratulations to those 9 gentlemen who are the captains. 9 is a lot, but I'm sure you guys. I'm very sure that you guys do deserve your honors. I don't know if you saw this quote from Logan Muckey. He actually said it's the greatest honor of his life, which. Okay. Wow. Shout out Logan Muckey.
Yeah. Special teams captain Logan Muckey.
Excited to see Logan out there. Yeah. For the teams putting on for that. But Maggie, let's go ahead and get into our interview with ESPN draft analyst Matt Miller. Look, and you can hang out with Matt Miller and myself if you need a spot to go for the Kansas-Missouri game. Head on up to Weston, Missouri. We'll be at Holiday Distillery. Not only watching the Kansas-Missouri game, obviously that's like the main event, but we'll have the end of the Cyhawk game will be up there. I think that's the same weekend. There's a good night game as well. I can't remember off the top of my head, but good slate of games.
OU, Michigan.
Yes, good slate of games of week 2, with the Missouri and Kansas game obviously being the main feature over there at Holiday Distillery. So links in the description. Go check that out. Go sign up. We still got plenty of spots available. We'll have food for you guys out there as well too, especially if you're hanging out all day. But we're just going to be hanging out up there, and appreciate Matt for wanting to come up and hang out with us. That's also really cool, and appreciate Matt for coming on the podcast and talking with us a little bit about Missouri football. So here is ESPN draft analyst Matt Miller.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
I'm Brett Goodwin, one of the owners of The Learning Tree. The Learning Tree is a neighborhood toy store in Prairie Village, Kansas. This has been here in this location since 2000s, and my husband Alan and I purchased the store in 2023. Alan and I grew up in families where we've always wanted to have a business together. Alan grew up, for instance, his parents had a jewelry store. I worked in a local toy store here in Prairie Village when I was growing up. When this opportunity happened in 2023, we knew right away we wanted to contact them and pursue the store. We wouldn't have been able to get the store without the team at Emprise Bank. From the day we contacted them, they knew what we needed to do, which was very helpful. I would absolutely recommend the team at Emprise Bank to anyone looking to secure a business. We worked with Emprise from day one. They were extremely helpful. They were always great resources. We talk to them frequently. They know the area. They're very friendly. We know who we're going to talk with, and they know what we need to do. We hope we'll see you at the Learning Tree.
Folks, nothing beats hanging out with the boys on a hot summer day and watching some baseball. And the simplest way that you all can get in on the action is to download the Pick 6 app from DraftKings. It is crazy simple. Just pick more or less on the stats for 2 or more of your favorite players, and boom, you're in the mix for big cash prizes. And the best part is, Pick 6 is available right here in Missouri. Don't miss out on the fun. Don't settle for a smaller payout. Switch to Pick 6, and right now, new customers can get $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5. Here's what you got to do. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and then use code KCSN. That's code KCSN for new customers to get $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Void where prohibited. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit. Bonus picks expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see pick6.draftkings.com/promos. Matt, thanks for joining us here on Mizzou That's Who, coming on to talk about the Tigers. You've been tweeting out some pretty big things about the Tigers, so I had to shoot that message and see if you wanted to come on and talk about it on the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, it's I'm pissed off. I'm just gonna be honest. I don't understand the not being included in the top 25. And I will preface this. You guys know, I mean, I'm born and raised in Missouri. I have never been a fan of the Missouri Tigers. I grew up a Texas fan and have been my entire life. Now, as a draft analyst, you kind of have to put that aside and just watch the players. And so, as a draft analyst, I look at all the talent Missouri has. I look at the non-draft eligible guys coming in, even and returning, and the fact that Coach Drink has back-to-back 10-win seasons. It's a very manageable schedule this year. What am I missing? I don't understand why the disrespect is out there for this team.
I talked about this with a couple of other people. You look at, say, for instance, put Mizzou and Ole Miss like right next to each other in terms of what they've done the past couple of years, won about the same amount of games. New quarterbacks coming in. You both had that up year in 2023 and a little bit down, like playing in, not New Year's Six Bowls in 2024, but still good seasons, both 10-win seasons for both teams. But then you look at where Ole Miss falls. They're also a top 7 transfer portal team. Should add that in there. So both teams are very, very similar. You look at where Ole Miss falls on the top in the rankings, I think somewhere around 15, 16. And you look at Mizzou not even in it. So is that Lane Kiffin? Is that because, the name Ole Miss for some reason hasn't been a historically great program by any means, but is it something to do with, I would say Lane. I mean,
I think there's a Lane Kiffin element, and I'm a Lane Kiffin fan. I love his offense on the college level. I mean, I love the sarcasm and the wittiness, and the Paul Feinbaum interviews. Like, all that's great. And Coach Drink, while also like quirky and sarcastic, it's a different type of quirky and sarcastic. Like, it's a little nerdier type of quirky sarcastic, but I think there's a lot to it. Also, there's the Austin Simmons element. You've got this lefty 5-star who's also a pitcher, and he's a known commodity. Whereas Bo Pribula is coming in from Penn State, where he was mostly a runner. He was, a backup to Drew Aller. I was stoked when Pribula went to Mizzou, because it's like, being here somewhat local, it means I'm going to get to watch him play a lot more. And we're going to see the Missouri offense change from being, the Brady Cook, and really, the last 2 years, I think it was more of a run-based offense with the running backs, excuse me. Now I think we're going to see more of a dual threat element, assuming Bo wins the job, right? But I just, so again, going back to like my job, Missouri has like double the draft prospects that Ole Miss does for 2026. And even like, so Ole Miss's top ranked player is linebacker / edge player, Suntarine Perkins. He's a good player. He's a really good player. He's someone you have to scheme for, someone you absolutely have to be aware of. But I would argue that Damon Wilson, the transfer from Georgia, is better. I would think that Zion Young is potentially better, especially suited for the SEC, with the power game. They're definitely better pro players. So while Ole Miss is going to be younger, and you mentioned it, they are always a hot transfer portal team. And so there's going to be dudes that pop on that radar that weren't there, when the season started. But just like talent to talent, Mizzou has Ole Miss in terms of, that upperclassman level.
Well, I was looking back at your Twitter account, Matt. It's because you've been tweeting a lot, as I mentioned, about the Tigers. You did bring up Damon Wilson. You brought up, I like this tweet that you say, every time I look at the NFL talent on Missouri's roster, I'm more and more confused as to how they're not a preseason top 25 team. I want to know, going to that talent, who's your favorite player? Who's the draft eligible player? Who's that NFL talent? Who's your favorite one that sticks out to you right now before we hit the season?
Well, it's either Damon Wilson or Zion Young. And Zion Young, like, I'm on this like mission to remind people that to win in the NFL as a pass rusher, you have to have power to your game. Even if you're built like some of these, like the guys the Eagles have, like Nolan Smith, you're 240 pounds. He has put a power element to his game. We saw a lot of this last year with some of the pass rushers we were watching, of like, okay, can Mike Green coming out of Marshall, is there power to his game? We go to the Senior Bowl, he runs over Josh Connerly. We're like, okay, check, cool. So I look at Zion Young, and it's like the power that he has really stands out to me. And now he's been inconsistent. I think that's the key now, is like finding that consistency as an upperclassman. That's going to be really important. I talked to an SEC coach that said Damon Wilson is going to be one of the best pass rushers in the SEC. And that includes guys like Colin Simmons. This is a loaded Dylan Stewart, Keldrick Falk. The SEC is loaded with pass rushers. But Damon Wilson, and again, what he did at Georgia, I mean, you can go watch him do it at one of the best schools in the country. He's been well coached. He has great burst off the edge. I think he's been underrated. And truly, this defensive line with those two and with Chris McClellan, like this D line is going to be really, really good, like good enough to carry this team. And I think when we've seen teams have success in the SEC, whether it be Texas, South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, it's been teams that have had a great defensive line. Like, as much as we want to talk about quarterbacks and wide receivers, give me a great defensive line and you're going to win a lot of ball games. Like, no matter the schedule, no matter the conference. I think Missouri has a great defensive line coming back.
I feel like Drink also like pushes for that a lot, but a lot of the people that I've talked to outside of Missouri, that here's the thing you recognize as a Mizzou fan, is that everybody kind of looks at what you've lost and never what you've gained. Like they just don't, I don't know if it's, again, just because of the name Missouri or what it is, but they, it gets underrated a little bit. And so, yeah, Drink's really pushed on that defensive line. It's kind of the thing that's made me a little bit more excited when I've been talking to people about it, because I'm like, I think the defense, like, regardless of what goes on the offense, and obviously we need to have a competent quarterback, we need to have a competent offensive line, but I really think our defensive line can keep us in games.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if this is a run-heavy offense, which like you lose Luther Burton, you lose Theo Weiss, you're losing Brady Cook, who for his ups and downs last year, he's still experienced, which is so like not talked about enough at the quarterback position. So I do think, with Pribula, let's say it's Pribula at quarterback, with the run game, with the players that they've brought in, with Ahmad Hardy coming in, I do think we're going to see a team that's like, okay, let's control the clock, let's pound between the trenches, and let's lean on the strength of our team, which is our defense and offensive line. By the way, we haven't even got to the offensive line, which I know Tucker will want to talk about.
Yeah.
It's like your strengths are your O line, your run game, and your D line. It might not be like super sexy, but you can win. And to your point, Maggie, I've heard people say, like, how do you replace Luther and Theo? Well, they hit the portal pretty hard in that area to bring in Kevin Coleman, to bring in Marquise Johnson, and you have Joshua Manning returning, who's a good player. You also have a very good tight end in Norfleet returning. So like there are guys in the pass game, they just maybe weren't 4 and 5 star, highly regarded recruits like Luther and Theo were.
When I look at the depth chart, I've talked about this on a previous episode we do. What I do is I'll put the depth chart into a Google Sheet and I'll color code it as well because my brain's pretty simple to see eligibility remaining. You go to the defensive side of the ball. We're talking about a lot of those guys that you brought up, the Zion Youngs, the Damon Wilsons. Like, there's a lot of red. Like, this is the last year. You go over to that offensive side of the ball, though. You got some guys that have got a decent amount of eligibility left. We talk about the wide receiver room, even on that offensive line. You get Caden Green named to the second team all AP
And
preseason AP. I don't know what all they're going to throw in there, but yeah,
do
insane.
you remember right after the draft last year, I came on this podcast and we were talking about Mizzou, and I said I would move Caden Green to left tackle.
You did say that.
See what happened? They moved Caden Green to left tackle. So I'm excited. I had to give myself one of those real quick.
Which is
because
that's
it
originally
was like
where
4 months ago.
that's originally where he was gonna play, right? So
Yeah.
or where he wanted to play, or there were all those rumors
He
about
was at Oklahoma, right? He was a left tackle at Oklahoma.
Yep.
So I thought.
Do you think though, like as I know that everybody kind of compares him to Mimbu a little bit, like in his footwork and stuff like that. Is that the position, the tackle position, where he would probably get drafted?
I mean, I still think he might get drafted as an interior player. But I thought that with Membo last year, and now he's playing right tackle in the NFL. So I think with Caden, it's the quickness is absolutely there to play tackle. The athletic ability that I always call like reactive agility. It's like being a power forward or a center in basketball. Do you have that to be able to catch up and slide and cut people off? He has that. Now, length is probably going to be the biggest question mark for him. I pulled up my database. Mine's not color coded like Tucker's, but I don't have an arm length on him yet. I'll probably have one before the season begins, but I definitely like, and he's only a junior. So we technically have 2 more years of Caden Green. I could see him developing into a quality offensive tackle because of that athleticism, but the length questions could still kick him back inside.
Let's talk about that offensive line a little bit more. You mentioned they're moving Caden Green to left tackle. They got a transfer from Michigan, Dominic Judice, Connor Tollison back for this year too, as he's recovering off after an injury. I think that's huge, especially with 2 quarterbacks that, well, with the quarterback, you don't really know who's going to be your center. Having to know who your center is and a center that's familiar with the system is going to help out. Curtis Piegler at right guard and right tackle. Keegan Trost is kind of how it's all shaping out right now. But also that offensive line, they do lose a couple guys to the NFL draft and are playing on NFL teams right now. How do you think they did kind of addressing those needs coming into this year?
Yeah, I mean, it's always tough losing both tackles. Marcus Bryant had a really good training camp. He's had a strong preseason so far as, a potential surprise as a UDFA. We were at the Mizzou Pro Day when the Patriots were there. And that's why Marcus Bryant is New England Patriots. That's a cool story. But the one thing that I look at, there's a lot of new faces here outside of Caden Green making a position change. Connor Tollison, who's coming back off injury. But the cool thing is it's a lot of experience. Caden Green's the youngest player on the offensive line at left tackle. So you instantly have guys who are quality starters, have some experience. And I think this is like the new way of college football, is that continuity along the offensive line is like what you always strive for.
Yeah.
It's probably more often going to look like this than not. And I think with Tollison coming back, I heard things in the pre-draft process last year about, he kind of needs to take that next step in terms of leadership and, accountability. as a center, that's what you want. And so I think all eyes for me early are going to be on him as far as that goes. Conditioning, leadership, where are those at, especially coming back off injury. It's easy to you get a little bit complacent coming back off injury. So that I think is one of the key scouting points for him early this year.
If there's one player that you think could make the jump in the season, like we've been talking about guys that maybe are like on that track already, but some guys might be in that like undrafted free agent zone. If there's any that you think that maybe could make that jump, like who are you looking at?
Yeah, I like Stephen Hall, the corner. I think he's somebody that could be, and I'm not sure if he's going to be in the rotation or if he's going to be an outside starter. I know they've said something about maybe having like 3 starters, which is normal. But I liked what I've seen from Stephen Hall. He's a redshirt senior. He's an experienced guy, but the movement ability from him, the toughness, like all that stood out to me anytime I've watched him play. So that would be one where like I kind of have high hopes for him. And even in my notes, like on my Mizzou notes, he's the guy that I have like the asterisk next to of like I want to see what he does. I want to say, was he at Washington State or Washington before? I always get it.
I think he was at Wazoo with
yeah. Yes, that's right. And then he was like a JUCO kid before that, but like the size is all there, and like he's been super productive everywhere he's been. So I have high hopes for him to take that next step.
Yeah, and Mizzou will need him to take a next step too. You talk about that cornerback.
He was a captain at Washington State, so like that.
Yeah,
and I know like then you transfer, but you're going from the Mountain West to the SEC. You kind of got to do that if you can do it, but or Pac-12 to SEC.
Whatever.
I would think that. Yeah, wherever they are now.
it's essentially the Mountain West. Yeah,
I would think that says a lot about him. To have been a JUCO kid, then a captain, and to have the production that he had at Washington State. I'm excited to see him.
Yeah, and that was one of the big position groups too. Like when you're talking about the transfer portal and just rebuilding teams and kind of the way that college football is now, that was one of the ones you're like, all right, Mizzou's probably gonna have to hit this transfer portal pretty hard at the defensive secondary, just in general.
Yeah.
Back there, they were able to add a couple of names back there. And they've been able to produce some pretty decent NFL guys when it comes down to guys in the NFL playing at the defensive backfield. I know Ennis Rakestraw just hit the injured reserve and is going to be out for the season, which is too bad for him. But I think Chris Abrams-Drain's been a really nice surprise for the Broncos for what they've got, and he's been able to play really well. So that's always encouraging to see guys in the NFL performing like they are. I mean, in the preseason, we're seeing right now all these Mizzou guys like Theo Weiss is popping off for the Dolphins. You got Luther Burton and Preston Chosinko. I mean, you got all these Mizzou guys popping off. It is.
Yeah. And again, like not to make this the coach drink hour, but he's done a good job of developing guys as far as finding talent, to have a first round pick in back-to-back drafts. And I will say like Luther should have been drafted much earlier than pick 39. I will stand on that table until someone throws me off of it. Even like Tyron Hopper to be a 3rd round pick, like that says a lot about their ability to develop these guys. This should be their biggest draft class since Drink is the biggest draft class he's recruited. At least this should be that class because there's a lot of talent. And you mentioned the secondary. If Jalen Catalon can stay healthy at safety, like he's a draftable safety. He's experienced. He's been at Arkansas. He had a year at Texas where he didn't really play a whole lot because of injury. If he can stay healthy, I can remember watching him in summer practice at Arkansas like 3 years ago. He's incredibly smart. He is a fantastic leader. He's a little bit undersized, but he's been a playmaker. So, I mean, I will tell you, let me just scroll real quick. I have 10 players on my early watch list from Mizzou as far as like draft eligible. And those are guys that I would say are like top 20 at their position is kind of my cutoff point right now for every position other than like wide receiver. So it's a talented team.
You mentioned Luther Burton, and I kind of want to ask you this because I know a lot of our listeners get really kind of upset about the fact that he dropped out of the 1st round and the rumors that were going around and things like that. Do you have any like actual insight to why he dropped? Was it the rumors? Was it just that 2024 productivity? Like, what are your thoughts on why he went from kind of a sure thing 1st round pick, as most everybody would say? We sat here a year ago and we talked about that as him being basically a surefire 1st rounder, and then disappointingly drop into that 2nd round.
I think it's both, honestly. I don't think it's as simple as, like one thing causes the slide. I do think his production was basically cut in half. So I think you have to, just on the surface, right? You look at that and you're like, okay, you never want to see a player's production drop as they get older. You're looking for them to show growth every year, and so that's a big part of it. Then I do think there are things like getting a personal foul, for chirping, and then there were
Throwing your
certainly
mouthpiece.
rumors, right? Throwing your mouthpiece. There were certainly rumors that he had checked out, and I never got that directly from anyone at Mizzou, but I was getting it from people around the NFL who were saying, hey, he's checked out, he's entitled. To which I would say, find me a wide receiver who's not. Find me
Right.
a
Biggest
Heisman
diva
candidate,
position group.
5-star, right? And a guy who, to stay in state, to go from St. Louis to Mizzou, they were building a program around him. Like there's no secret. All Missouri fans should be nodding their head, like, yeah, that's basically what everybody said, right? Like he was the savior of Missouri football. And so to have all those expectations and then realize you're in an offense that can't get you the ball, or I would even say the play callers, have to raise their hand a little bit in terms of accountability for not finding ways to get him more involved in the offense. It would be like, all right, it's late in the game, it's close, we might lose to Vanderbilt, let's find Luther, instead of, hey, maybe we get this guy 5-6 touches within our first 15, 16 plays.
Yeah.
So I think it's like, to answer your question, is everything. I think the cut in productivity, him being a junior, so he's not at East West Shrine, he's not at the Senior Bowl, where he has those opportunities to meet with teams and say, you know what, I should have handled that a little bit better. I'm mature, I'm accountable. Here's the type of pro I'm going to be. And I do know that was something that some folks on the Bears coaching staff questioned when they drafted him was, oh man, are we going to get a guy that wants to come in and work? Because if you've watched Ben Johnson's offense, the receivers have to do everything. They got to block, they got to run, decoy routes, they have to do it all. I think we saw, was that Sunday night, that Luther is ready to show up and do all the things.
Which is good, because I know there's a lot of people already calling him a bust out here with him sliding in the draft and then getting yelled at practice and then missing with a hamstring, already saying like he doesn't have what it takes, but him to go out there. And I think when the lights come on, it'll prove to be a really good pick for the Chicago Bears.
And I don't know if you guys heard on the broadcast, Greg Olson was saying that maybe I'm not supposed to say this, but Ryan Poles, the Bears GM, thought that Luther Burton has the talent to be better than Rome Odunze or DJ Moore. So, and Ryan's there every day at practice. And yes, he drafted him. So like he's got a little bit of incentive, but you don't just say things like that. You don't just throw out that, hey, this guy could be one of the best receivers in the NFL pretty damn quick. So it seems like they really believe in his talent.
It's good.
Now,
I mean,
now we just have to figure out the quarterback position, which, I mean, obviously Caleb Williams is Caleb Williams, and I think it's going to be fine, but there's a little bit of struggles there.
It's another big talking point. And it's funny, like, I know this isn't a Bears or a Caleb Williams podcast, but like you're supposed to struggle year one on a new system, especially when you're going from what they had last year to what, like, it's like going from elementary school to high school and skipping junior high. It's like, it's a big, big difference. I'm sure you guys remember the Mahomes conversations about, oh, he's throwing so many interceptions in practice. He's got to stop being this gunslinger. No, that's your time to do that. Like, you're supposed to mess up in practice. You're supposed to learn. So I'm not going to, I won't be invited on any of the morning talk shows with that reasoned take, but like, I want you to mess up in training camp.
Right. You can't be on first take with that one. They can't make a lower third for that one, Matt.
We'll find a way. You gotta frame it the right way, right?
Well, as we're talking about wide receivers and talking about Luther Burton, I mean, their big transfer was Kevin Coleman. He comes in, he's even wearing number 3. I mean, he's from St. Louis. They played against each other in high school a whole lot. I mean, there's a little bit of overlap there with Kevin Coleman. He comes off of a Mississippi State team that was awful last year. Like, that team was not good. And who knows if they'll still be good this year. I don't think they will be. But he comes over to a Missouri offense where maybe he can have a little bit more. They're going to pair him with Joshua Manning, who I thought came on really strong at the end of last year. His body, he's really grown into his body from the time that he was a freshman all the way until now. I remember covering his commitment to Missouri and thinking, like, this kid's going to have to, hit the weight room a little bit. And he did. He really grew into it. And Marquise Johnson as well, another guy on this wide receiver. But you feel pretty good about. But Kevin Coleman, he adds to that mix. What do you think about him?
I'm excited to see him back home. That's another St. Louis kid. He was a Deion Sanders guy at Jackson State. He was at Louisville for a year. And then last year broke out at Mississippi State. So frequent flyer miles have been racked up for Kevin Coleman. But he is that, I mean, athletically, he's that same type of guy. Maybe not to the level of Luther, but like your gadget guy. You want to get him the ball on jet sweeps. You want to get him the ball on bubble screens, the quick hitters to where, pick on a defender. If they've got a weakness at one of their corner positions, you want to find a way to get Coleman matched up because of his quickness and his yards after catch ability. And you mentioned on a Mississippi State team that was terrible last year, he was one of the few bright spots. So I will be excited to see how they implement him. And I would think that he's probably the number one option in the passing game. Marquise Johnson's another guy. Like I want to see what he does. And then obviously with Joshua Manning coming back, I would think Johnson and Manning are your outside guys, and then Norfleet a tight end with Coleman in the slot. Like and I tweeted about this. Like that's a good group, even if you haven't heard of a lot of those guys, because Coleman has bounced around a whole lot. They're still talented.
And you say because they haven't, or people haven't heard about him, and that's something with like Brett Norfleet that we Missouri fans just know about him. Obviously, he's also from St. Louis, and he's a like behemoth of a human. Like he's massive. Do you see he's only a junior, and we do have some talented juniors on the roster. We talked about Caden Green already. Do you see any of these juniors being good enough to leave early?
Yeah, I mean, I think Caden Green and Brett Norfleet are the two that stand out because they were especially Norfleet, he's a redshirt junior now. I mean, there was even some conversation before he got hurt late in the season last year about him coming out as a redshirt sophomore. Then the injury happens. He decides to stay, which I think was the right move. But those would be the two that I think you have to kind of identify as there was already talk last year, so it's like very, very rarely, barring something unfortunate happening, do guys decide to come back for both. Damon Wilson's a junior. I think he's probably gone just based on the talent. If he plays the way I think he is capable of playing, I would think he's gone because he'll probably be a top 50 pick.
They do have a lot of. I'm looking at my depth chart, my color coding.
Too deep.
Yeah, my color coding is showing me they got a lot of orange on the roster right now, and a lot of that orange is coming at the quarterback position as well, with a couple of years of eligibility left. With Bo Pribula and Sam Horn. Matt, I want to get your thoughts on that kind of the quarterback competition. And those are two kind of different styles of quarterback, truthfully. So it's interesting that, I don't know, it's interesting like this close to the wire that they're taking the quarterback battle down because it's not like they're playing like Alabama week 1. They're playing Central Arkansas. Right. So a little bit different of a situation than a lot of these, like the BYUs or any of these other schools are out here announcing their starting quarterbacks, Tennessee's. But thoughts on that quarterback competition?
I'm waiting for Pete Thamel to tweet as we're talking.
Right, yeah.
Starter is, right? I'm going to get the notification on my phone. I would think, and so I'll be honest, I've never seen Sam Horn throw a pass in college. So I don't know where he's at. We saw him at the pro day, just kind of hanging out, but I don't know, right? I mean, I know he was a highly regarded two-sport guy. I think that's fun because you're right. It is a very different type of offense. I would imagine you get Pribula early, right? He signed in early January, basically. I would think you probably have sketched out your plan around him because you got him that early, right? You go get him from Penn State. He played well when he was on the field as like a run threat or a two quarterback option offense. I would imagine that they had very much built their plan offensively around Pribula. Now that's not to say like if Sam Horn has just been, unbeatable that he couldn't win that job, but I would think that you roll with Pribula and you see where you're at, especially because like we talked about, the strength of this team is the O-line, the D-line, a quarterback that can give you something as a runner, especially early in the season. I do think gives you a leg up on some of these, with Sam Horn, it's going to be more of a passing offense. It's going to be more, timing based. It's going to be more drop back. But my suspicion, and I have not talked to anyone about this, is that Pribula probably has a pretty big advantage just because of transfer portal, NIL, and the timing of when they went and got him.
And like you said, when he was on the field, he played pretty well. He had 94, this is just carries, 94 carries for 571 yards and 10 touchdowns. And I think that might be over the 2 years that he played, but then just last year threw for 275 yards, which is more than some of the players that are coming in at quarterback in the SEC have played. So, I mean, at least, you know, you've seen some of it. So, I mean, I don't know. And it's also one of those things too, is it's like, if Bo or Sam struggles, like if we have a couple of losses before Alabama or something, like, do you take a chance and play Zoller some, or are you rolling just the rest of the season?
I always
like 1 and 2?
hate to do that, and this is probably like I'm showing my age probably a little bit, but like I remember the Drew Henson Tom Brady season like it was yesterday, where it's like, oh, well, we're gonna play them each a quarter, or like Chris Sims, Major Applewhite. It never works, right? It doesn't work, and even this goes back to when 2 years ago with Brady, and it was like, oh, we don't know who the quarterback's gonna be, and I do think there's something to saying this is our guy. So even last year at Texas, you have Quinn Ewers, Arch Manning. All season, everybody's looking at the sidelines anytime Quinn does something wrong, wondering when does the backup come in. And could they have handled that situation a little bit better? Maybe, but barring injury, I think the best thing to do is say, this is our guy. He's going to make some mistakes. We're going to roll with him, because you have to have that confidence. The team has to have the confidence in the quarterback. The quarterback has to have that confidence in himself. So I hope we don't get the rotating quarterback thing, just because I don't think it's ever worked. I don't think a team's ever won a national championship rotating quarterbacks. You know, it's like, if you don't have a guy, you're in trouble. Also, listen, I hope Sam Horn listens to this podcast. I hope I get the opportunity to see him play. You got to change your number.
Oh, it's
like 21 at quarterback, or like BYU's quarterbacks wearing 47.
47, yeah.
No.
We talked about this too. We hate the number thing too, and like I love the number 21. Like I was the number 21.
It was my number. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I love Kareem Rush, so I was number 21 because like I loved Kareem Rush. Yeah. But like, you're a quarterback at a Power 4 school. There's no reason for you to be number 21.
A Power 4 school that almost has bleachers all the way around the stadium now. Like, this is growing up football now, right? Like this is
we call it grown man. We call grown man football.
Yeah, it's like quarterbacks. It's 18-1. Like 19 is even kind of weird for me.
19 is a
Unders number. You know, Montana for the Chiefs, I know, but like punters and kickers were 19, not quarterbacks.
Yeah, I agree. Look, I mean, Montana State this is going to be a real sicko poll right here. Montana State about 2 years ago, maybe it was last year, did a 2 QB RPOs like regularly, where they would sometimes hand off, but then that quarterback could also throw. So like they would run 2 QB RPOs. I'm sure Drink has hit the tape. I'm sure he's figuring out how to integrate the 2 QB RPO system into their system that they have now. But we'll see how it goes. That's obviously going to be the biggest thing that we're looking for when the Missouri Tigers hit the field against Central Arkansas. I don't know if we'll have any clear answers after that game either, because they'll do like the preseason treatment, you know, where you're like, all right, these starters play a quarter. And then we're gonna get some guys in, get some guys out there. But Matt, appreciate you hopping on and joining us for a quick little pod here talking about the Missouri Tigers.
Yeah, of course, one of my favorite things to talk about. So hopefully you guys will have me back once we have some games to evaluate.
Now, we did say that Chris Marler was our most returning guest. I think Matt has now dethroned Marler.
There we go.
Yeah. At least you're tied on this show, but you've been on more other shows, so you definitely win. So sorry, Chris.
Yeah, I would hope that across KCSN, I've got to be the most frequent guest.
Yeah.
If not,
sure.
I now have a goal for the 2025-2026 season is to overtake whoever has that throne.
Well,
we broke listening numbers, like our record for listeners, at least on YouTube with this podcast last week with Cousin Shane coming on from that SEC podcast. So
that was good.
We'll see if we can break it with you this week.
It's true.
That's smart. You know how to poke us all to get us like, oh, I guess you should share this podcast every day. I'm gonna do it now.
There you go. Perfect. Love to see it. Well, Matt, appreciate your time. For Maggie Johnson, I'm Tucker Franklin. Thank you guys for listening to Mizzou. That's Who here on KC Sports Network. Hit that like, hit that subscribe. We'll be back next week previewing an actual football game for the Missouri Tigers. So stay tuned, and we'll see you then.